You're listening to Redesigning Reality with Dylan Charles and Jeff Anthony.
Hey, yeah. We're rolling here on Redesigning Reality, the podcast. I am Dylan Charles with Jeff Anthony. What's up, my good brother? Talk to me now.
Hey, Dylan, how you doing today?
Fantastic. Yeah. What about you?
I'm doing good. Doing really good.
Sweet.
It's nice. It's rolling into the final week of the month here. I guess we got a week left of the month, and it's cool, man. Taking inventory, things are definitely shifting.
Shifting, like stuff in your stomach shifting, more candida detox stories, man. What can you tell us about your bowels, Mr. Jeff? No, don't. I'm just kidding. Fuck all that.
Look out now. But yeah, I am still doing the detox, and it is going well. It's going really well, actually. You can probably tell by my, slenderish figure that I'm sporting these days. But no, it's a good thing, and I think with all these kinds of things, it's all about sticking to it. And
sticking to it, yes.
I went to see the speaker I was telling you about, Kimmy Joseph, and he was saying that the statistics on New Year's resolutions are basically that most people last 10 days before they break their resolutions. And so humans can't even make it 2 weeks before they're like, yeah, you know what? This is too hard. Give me a cookie. So,
yeah. So January is a great month. At least the first part of January is a great month to stay out of the gym. All the what do they call those resolutioners? Hit the gym.
It's funny you said that because I went to Costco the other day, to do some shopping for the week, and the whole store is just full of like treadmills and like. I don't know, dude. My son and I were laughing. There was all these ladies on this like rump shaker thing that was like bouncing their legs up and down, and they're holding on to me.
It's like those old like cartoons, man. The old like Looney Tunes back in the day with like Elmer Fudd, man. He would get on one of those things, one of those guys, man. And lo and behold, it's real. Whatever. It's real.
It's for real, dude. It was so fun. We were watching these. Oh, dude, we were laughing so hard. It was freaking awesome. Kai was like, what is that? And yeah, everywhere, dude. It's like massaging chairs, treadmills, ellipticals, and little rump shaker machines. It was pretty hilarious. But it is so funny to think about how, marketing and industry and corporations use these known what would you call them? Like agendas or known kind of trends, patterns. I would say. Yeah, they're trends. Mm-hmm. And they ride the trend because they know, hey, man, this is our chance to sell treadmills and ellipticals and weights to people that are basically never going to use them. So and increase commerce because it's just another selling season, right? Like, oh, what are we going to do? Christmas is over. Everything's going to go down. No, I know. We'll sell them exercise machines. So, interesting stuff.
Yeah, cash rules everything around me. And I go to people's houses all the time, and I see this dusty-ass treadmills and stuff. Who is it? Somebody said something funny once. One of the comedians was like, yeah, humans are the only species that'll get in a car and drive to a gym and then go inside and sit on a stationary bike.
That is pretty funny.
That's wackadoo, my friend.
It is, dude. And I always, when I was able to, one of my favorite things in the world, man, was riding bikes. It really was. It was nothing to put in 50, 60 miles in a day, easy. And I'm talking like my teenage years when I was aimless and it was summertime, and I just get on my bike and go. And
they have apps for that now, man. You could just hop on an app, dude, and fucking coast through.
Coast through an app.
Coast through some facsimile of the countryside. Dude, before we hit record, I was singing some song, some goofball 90s pop song, and you were like, oh, yeah, she just died. And I was like, no, I was singing someone else. But pop stars dying, man. It made me think of Tom Petty. Like a week ago, the autopsy reports came out for Tom Petty. Rest in peace, Mr. Petty. And found that he basically died of a drug overdose. A mixture of
I actually just read that on this really cool website called Waking Times last night.
Yeah, that's it, man. That's the place to go. But man, I really like I see this around town. You know, my neighbor across the street, he's a fireman, and I was talking to him about what it's like and what he goes, you know, what his average day is like, and he's like, yeah, 90+% of our calls are for overdoses of prescription medicines, and it's, you know, a lot of times like street drugs too, but prescription meds, man. So there's definitely something lurking under the surface in America, really in North America, and it's spreading throughout the world too, man. But what was that actor's name, dude? I forget, Philip Seymour or something or other. Dude,
Hoffman?
Yeah, that guy. There was another guy. Prince also died of
fentanyl as well.
Fentanyl, yeah, and like Tom Petty had fentanyl, some other kind of like two kinds of fentanyl. Xanax in his system. This whole concoction, man. It's just,
he had I mean, when I read the toxicity report, I was like, okay, we had oxycodone, we had fentanyl, 2 types. I was like, yo, dude, like that's like kind of crazy.
Well, yeah, but dude, like his family said, like he'd broken his hip, man, and he was like pushing himself through this like tour. It was like his biggest tour ever, and he was pushing himself and performing and stuff with the fucking broken hip, man. So the pain was outstanding, and that's really where this conversation is at. It's at, you know, somehow people get from legitimate pain to, you know, hopeless drug addicts. That's the fuck thing, you know, and the companies that have produced, man, I forget, it's like the Salker family or something, the folks that the family that was behind OxyContin. I mean, they have made billions and billions and billions of dollars by pimping out OxyContin into the world and basically claiming that, you know, it's no harm, no foul, not going to do any harm, but it's going to save you from the pain. And so, man, the
what was
the
2016 was the highest rate of overdose ever, like 42,000 Americans, dude. That's just in the United States. 42,000 Americans OD'd on prescription, like fentanyl and oxycodone and stuff like that.
Yeah, so that's like what like half a, you know, Major League Football field.
Yeah, that's insane, dude.
Dude, I
mean,
read,
that's like
the 2017, man, Mexico, highest number of murders on record for Mexico, over 25,000 homicides in Mexico.
Right. When you start putting those numbers into like context, like okay, so you're in Asheville, North Carolina. What's the population there?
I think it's like just over 100,000, somewhere in there, 110, 120 something.
So you're in Eugene's 150,000. So, I mean, dude, that's like a third of Eugene dying. Like, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if 42,000 people from Eugene overdosed, you'd be like, whoa, what the fuck? But I guess somehow in the numbers of population of the United States, they're like, oh, well, it's 1%. It's okay. I mean, people die. You know, so
what's interesting to me, because I was talking to a good friend of mine who was a really hardcore, I'll get into that in a minute, but a really hardcore heroin and opiate addict, and he told me a lot of stuff that I didn't know about it, you know, and he was, at the time of his recovery, he was doing like 3 grams of heroin a day. That's a fuckload. He was spending over $100,000 a year on heroin. But he let me, you know, he sort of like opened my eyes to like this scene and how it really works, and how a lot of the people that he knew that were hooked got hooked legitimately because they had pain. A lot of those came from the dentist. Man, I think the dentists, like oral surgeons and whatnot, are like one of the places where people get hooked the most on Vicodins. It starts with Vicodins and goes to OxyContins or whatever. And so just like you kind of like clued me into the fact that the progression was, I always thought it was people start doing street drugs because they're out partying or whatever, having a good time, and then when they can't get those, they turn to pills because that's what's in their parents' pill cabinets or whatever. But I think the epidemic right now, it's kind of flip-flopped. I mean, like, people are getting hooked when they go to their doctors, and now doctors are being more stringent with how they prescribe, and, you know, like, if you go to the pharmacies, they got all that shit. They got the Adderall locked up, they got the Ritalin locked up tight, they got the Special K all locked up tight, but they'll still give that shit out, man. You just got to get some fancy doctor to scribble his illegible name on a little script of paper, and then you can get to that stuff. But so like the flow actually works the other way. You know, you go to the doctor and stuff, and when they cut you off, you're fucked. I mean, what are you going to do when they cut you off? You're going to like curl up and go through withdrawal, start sweating, shitting yourself, puking all over the place, and fucking shaking, and maybe like choke to death. Like,
go get some Kratom.
No, you're going to go. You're going to go find some. You're going to. I don't know where, but you're going to start hooking up. I thought that was kind of whack because it just.
Well, here they have all these different places, you know, that sell Kratom. You know, it's supposed to be. Well, it's not supposed to be. It's a natural plant that like helps people with opioid addiction, and because that's like a huge problem here, dude, is the, you know, heroin and methamphetamine problem. And a researcher that I like actually was same thing. He broke his hip and all this stuff and compressed vertebrae at his back and all this, and his doctors had put him on, you know, the Oxycontin and all that good stuff, and all of a sudden because of all these overdoses and stuff, they started cutting back, like you said, and they were like, yeah, we're not going to be able to refill your thing because we feel like we should be pulling you back off of this stuff. And yeah, dude, he said he was dying, like he was vomiting and going through like crazy withdrawal and couldn't get out of bed, like sweating, and he's like in his like 70s, you know. So it was literally like killing him. And so he said he called a friend, and his friend was like, get somebody to go out and get you this Kratom, you know, and give it a shot. And he did, and it worked. And then he got off completely. Like he's not taking any of that kind of stuff anymore. So
that explains why the DEA is trying to outlaw it. Oh my god!
I know, right?
Have you ever tried Kratom?
I've never personally tried it, but I've tried all the other stuff. I've been addicted to opioids. It's one of the things I write about in my book, and it was nasty, dude. Like it's not a good thing, you know. And that's exactly kind of my story is exactly the opposite. It's the story you were saying that's the opposite of what you would think. I wasn't shooting up heroin and, you know, smoking crystal or any of that. I was going to VA doctors, and I was in severe pain due to the things that I have going on. And that was their solution is, hey, you need to take this, you know, this oxycodone, and then you need to take this stronger Oxycontin, and then you need, you know, and then, you know, I will say that, you know, that kind of, it did kind of stimulate some other little recreational, like, you know, people are like, oh, you take that, you should try these morphine pills. So I tried those, you know, and tried all kinds of crap, you know, and man, for me personally, the eye opener, the scary part was when I went to pick my son up from school one day. He was in kindergarten, and I picked him up and drove him home, and I sat back down in my office, and I was doing some stuff on my computer, email stuff, because I had a home office working from home, and I was selling real estate at the time. Like, dude, I'm bombed out of my head driving clients around on this freaking Oxycontin. You don't realize that you're out of your head because you adjust to it, right? You're an addict. And
it's legal, man.
Yeah. And then I got up, dude. All of a sudden I was like, oh shit, I forgot to pick my kid up from school. And I jump up to go pick him up because in my mind I can't remember picking him up. I thought I'd forgotten. I go to my key box right next to my garage door, and I pull my keys out. And as soon as I pull the keys out, Dagan heard me, and I hear the little pitter patter. Little 5-year-old wandering down the hallway. He's like, Daddy, where are you going? And I'm like, how did you get here? And he's like, you picked me up. You're being silly. And I was like, yeah, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. But yeah, dude, it scared the shit out of me, dude. And then when I started to, you know, try to recall stuff, I started realizing that there was big parts of my day and shit that I wasn't remembering, and that I was just kind of floating, literally, like on the magic carpet ride, just kind of floating through my day and stuff. And then of course at night you had to like hit the bong and drink some wine to take the edge off, because you've fucking been pounding 800 milligrams of freaking Oxycontin like 3 times a day.
That's what it's like that's what it's like when you let the fuckers put you on ADD meds, like Adderall and Ritalin, man. I was on that stuff for a while, many years back. And part of it was just recreational. I mean, let's face it, we live in a world where like the people who are super highly productive get rewarded, the most, right? And so, but speed is one of those fucked up things where you think you're getting a lot of shit done, but you're really not getting a lot of shit done. You're doing a lot, but not a lot's getting done. It kind of turns into that loop, but
a lot of movement, not a lot of productivity.
Yeah, but same thing too, man. It's like you're dosing this stuff all day because the doctors tell you it's cool. The pharmacists are like, "Oh, cool. Here's your baggie full of your pills," and you pop the cap in the morning like you're supposed to. You got the fucking schedule. It tells you, take the one at 7, one at noon, one at 3. Yep. Yeah, and so all day long you've been productive. Working your way through the matrix, getting everything done, filing your papers, doing your reports, doing your studying, and working for the man or whatever the hell it is. And then by the time sleep's supposed to come, you're just bug-eyed and just fucking fried, dude. So yeah, you got to take the edge off. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. I tried Kratom. Kratom. I don't know, man. We were talking about that. I was telling you that I'm almost like on the ketogenic diet, and you were telling me it's ketogenic. So I don't even know if it's ketogenic or ketogenic. But Kratom,
it's spelled Keto. That's all we know.
That's all we know. We only know what Joe Rogan says. But the Kratom, is it Kratom or Kratom? I really don't know. But I tried some. So I was I was going through a phase. Interesting. It was an interesting time in my life too, man. This is pretty cool because I had been working a lot with ayahuasca, doing a lot of ceremonies. It was like 2 or 3 years into my experiences with that. And so I had gone through these phases where I was dealing with, my emotional system and just trying to detox my body and mind and spirit, and was dealing with my emotional system. And then I got to a point where I would go into ceremonies and I would, have my clear intentions with me of things I wanted to work on, ways that I wanted to improve, how to become a more loving person, or, less anger, how to deal with my anger and overcome that, and finally one ceremony, I just it's one of the most amazing ceremonies ever. But I asked the spirit of the vine, the grandmother's spirit. I said, please tell me what it is, what it is that I need to be working on. Where is my growth coming from? And it was she told me, she was like, well, you're pretty good in the head right now, but your body's kind of fucked up. And so when I was little, I don't know, in middle school, I think 6th or 7th grade, the guys came around to do the scoliosis test, to see who's got the fucked up spine, to figure out which kid everybody's going to make fun of for the rest of the year. Yeah. And so they did that with me, and just the kid's worst night. It's the worst nightmare, man. When the lice test comes up positive for you, right? When the nurse with those little straws is digging through your hair and finds the lice, that's not good. And also the scoliosis thing, when they're like, okay, cool, yeah, we checked you out. You stand over here for a little bit. We want you to talk to another guy. And you're like, oh, fuck. I had curvature of the spine, forward curvature of the spine. So a hunchback kind of thing going on. And thoracic kyphosis. And so they wanted to put me in braces, have me wear these crazy ass braces and fucking leg braces and all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, no way, man. I'm not doing that. And so I didn't ever do anything about the problem for years. And so here I am, a 37 years old or something, and I'm sitting in ceremony, drinking heavy brew all night, looking for guidance from this cosmic spirit, right? And she's like, yeah, well, at the moment, this is what you need to work on. And then instant fucking just gut-wrenching pain in my back. I could feel my whole spine. I could see inside my body, and it was almost like an MRI view of the inside of my body and my spinal column, and I could see everything that was going on. And I saw I saw how my spine had been, problematic at first when I was a kid, but having gone unaddressed for so many years, how it was getting worse and worse. And then I saw this vision of myself in the future, 60-year-old, unable to walk, just in severe pain. Yeah, like a hunchback, and just suffering from severe debilitating pain and stuff. And the spirit was like, here, you want to know what this is going to feel like? We're going to show you. And just life-changing pain, dude. Well, ceremony ended, but the pain didn't end. And the pain didn't end the next day or the next day or the next day. And it was probably 6 months, 8 months of just serious pain all the time in my upper middle back. And it forced me, the message I got was that, you need to do something about that. And it forced me to go once again into self-healing mode. And we talked about that a little bit in past shows, but going into self-healing mode. And so I had to reach into my own bag of tricks and figure out how to heal myself. And so I turned to Qigong and yoga, and really got serious about doing specific Qigong exercises for the back and spinal movement and, fluidity of the spine, and working in special resting postures, resting yoga postures and whatnot, every day. We got really diligent about this. And I also tried some Kratom, I don't fucking know. And tried some Kratom, and it was kind of interesting because you kind of thought, you're kind of like, cool, I've got this cool drug, this cool legal drug to experiment with. And I think I had like 4 varieties of it. And I did notice. Yeah,
there's like the green, the yellow, the red.
Bali,
I think there's
red.
3.
Yeah. There's lots of varieties. But the interesting thing is, like, the effects are really quite subtle if you do them. So you can create blends of it that work best for what you're doing. So, like, if you read like the indications for the different brands of Kratom, it's like, this one here is really high and like mellow and calmness. This one here is really high and like pain relieving. This one here is really high and like helping you to focus or whatever. It's been a while. And so I developed over time this blend that really, like, it really iced the pain. I mean, it did wonders for me. But over time I was able to get through all that. So I think that Kratom it's a powerful thing, but I just put it down because I felt like I was waking up going, okay, I have to have Kratom now, and I was like, that's just stupid. And the taste is it's gnarly, dude. I didn't like the taste at all. So
that's what I've heard too. The taste is bad, but I mean, let me tell you, the taste of popping Oxycontins 3 times a day isn't very nice either. It's like, that leaves you with a nice medicine-y metallic burp all day. It's pretty disgusting.
That's nothing though, bro. The taste of a good strong cup of ayahuasca at the kind served from the bottom of the pot with all the grit and roots and stuff left in there, man. But what's even worse is when that comes up in the purge, man. Well, it's designed to it's a cleanse. It's designed to scrape out all your insides on the way back up. That's what it is. So. But it's it's interesting, as I'm listening to you talk about Kratom drugs.
We're covering all the pronunciations here.
Kratom.
Why are they so afraid of these certain things? Why are they trying to?
Come on, man! Don't be delusional, bro. You know the answer to that, man.
Well, I'm speaking from.
Don't be hypothetical here, man. We know they're rhetorical. Come on, bro. You know the answer to that. They're not afraid of it. They're afraid of losing money.
Well, they're afraid of the effect that it could have on the sales of their Oxycontin and oxycodone and fentanyl and all these other things that are killing people, right? So, but I mean, like I wrote an article not too long ago for my blog about I forget the details. I write so many freaking articles, but basically, like the drug industry was starting to put down the lobbying efforts in Colorado and stuff because because some studies had come out showing that, like, people are getting
not
off
just
of
for not just for pain. Like, there was a couple of things, like senior citizens were the #1 growing demographic of cannabis users in pot legal states, and they just magically happen to be the people who get fed the most freaking drugs.
Opioids, yeah.
Opioids, but everything, man. All the statin drugs and all the the drugs that counter all the side effects of all that stuff. It's totally insane. Right. My father's wife's father had dementia, and they were caring for him in the late stage of his life. And my father's wife is very, like, organically minded, gardener person, very holistically minded, and the other members of the family always insisted that they went with the strict doctor's regulations, but they had him under their care for a while because nobody else wanted to take care of him because it was so difficult to take care of him. He would wake up in the middle of the night and, like, walk into the kitchen and put the trash can in the middle of the kitchen and just pee in it and pee all over the floor. Oh, awesome. I mean, like. And so what she found out was that if she stopped giving him all his meds, like the cocktail of meds, like, he would actually start to, like, his mind would come back online. He would tell jokes and be fun to be around for a while and stuff. It's kind of messed up.
Right, but Jeff Sessions is coming for your weed.
Man, that guy's a fucking troll, huh?
Why does his name have to be Jeff?
Dude, I don't know. That's a good question. But so like so like people were switching away from, people were using cannabis products instead of painkillers, and people basically were using cannabis to ease the symptoms of all kind of things that they were given all kind of medicines for, not just opioids and stuff. So in other words, like it was causing us, so they were seeing the potential to cause a serious slump in sales of all kinds of pharmaceutical drugs, and so. Yeah, there's some pushback, and then you have like that little troll guy, Jeff Sessions, up there. What is that, man? That's just another case of some douchebag politician, fucking Trump. Like not keeping his word. Like just saying whatever he can think of to get elected, and then.
Well, and then it's just another case of another politician trying to, in the case of Jeff Sessions, trying to make a name for himself, right? Like I'm going to be the guy that goes after the weed, and. That's going to be my platform. And then whatever, dude, it's so lame. It's so stupid. Like leave people alone, like, it's really funny when you start thinking about people forget that we're part of nature, right? Nature is self-regulating, right? Like if a tree receives excess water, it absorbs, it starts to shut down the amount of water it's going to absorb, right? If it's like excess rain. And then if there's a drought, then the tree tries to absorb more water, and they all survive, and they're all self-regulating, right? Like these animal species, right, that get overpopulation in certain areas start developing diseases so that there's a die-off of, and then on and on it goes. But then we don't realize that human beings are self-regulating too, right? And of course there's going to be a natural die-off. Everybody dies. It's part of life, is death. But people, on the grand scale, people want to live. Like people aren't trying to overdose and die. I realize that does happen, and there's a small number of people that are seeking that. But human beings are generally pretty good at self-regulation, right? It's just, that we've been so, our perspective and our view on what's healthy, what's unhealthy is so skewed, right? There's so much manipulation just in that. People will argue with you that you have to be a vegan. People will argue with you that you have to eat meat. People will argue with you that, you got to be all organic, and then people will say, well, it's not viable for me because I can't afford it. And, it's really funny where people put their value system. I can't afford to buy organic, healthy food, but then I can buy, a brand every time there's a new iPhone or whatever. I have the newest tech and unlimited data plan or whatever. So it's interesting to me where people put the value of things in their life, or how they prioritize value, right? The hierarchy of values.
Yeah,
right?
But the we live in, a lot of people, I like to use the term matrix as well for the, it's just a cool term to describe all the influences that we have working against us in society. I don't know why when you were talking, it reminded me of this stupid cereal commercial from back in the day. It was like Special K or Total, that's what it was. And some chump gets up in the morning, puts his necktie on, is ready to go to work, and he sits down, and his wife serves him a bowl of, cornflakes or whatever, and then the asshole from the Total brand, the narrator comes on. He's like, "Hey pal, you're gonna need to eat 15 bowls of that to equal the nutrition."
I remember that commercial. I remember that.
Hey asshole, you're gonna have to eat 3 cabinets full of that stuff to equal the nutrition in 1 bowl of Total. So. Man, it's coming, it's happening, man. People are breaking through. Like people are seeing that definitely we've been programmed by advertisers and marketing and propagandists and all this kind of stuff. And there's so many cool like initiatives popping up and people doing things. And there's so many people having success selling like organic, foods, and I don't know, man. But
that thing's taken off big time, dude, because choosy moms choose Jif because there's a half a pound of sugar in it. The choosy moms choose organic, all natural peanut butter. I remember when I was a kid, even, man, my mom was like, just went on this rage, dude, where everything was a falafel burger. You know, if we wanted to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you had to go in there and like mix the peanut butter because it was all the oil on the top, and you know,
dude, I'm not even joking, man. I didn't even know what falafel was till I was like 25.
Are you serious?
Yeah, man. I used to work with your wife at the video game company, man, and I would go out to eat with my boss, and they went to like one of these like Lebanese or some kind of restaurant that's really awesome, Pars Deli or whatever it was, but they would get falafel, and I was like, damn, what the fuck is that? Damn, what is that? That's some good
changed
stuff.
your world, didn't it?
Yeah, that's right. This is like in the 24, 25. That's literally right when things like changed everything for me. Like, you know, that's back when I was drinking sodas all day long and just eating whatever. And man, you know, no exercise, just playing video games and partying, drinking alcohol like an idiot, you know, and doing lots of drugs too, man. That was the lifestyle, you know, and you know, the number one drug was sugar, right? You know,
well, that's where, you know, all these things that have happened to my health feels like the raw deal, you know, because I grew up, my mom was super health conscious, right? Like my mom had a juicer back in the 80s when nobody was juicing, right? And she had this special freaking mixer grinder thing for grinding like whole grains, and like everything was, you know, if there was no sweetener or anything, my mom's like answer to everything was put some honey in it, because, you know, my dad had raised bees and honey. And dude, let me tell you, there's nothing like eating like this barley wheat cereal with no sugar and putting a glob of honey and then cold milk. It's just like this glob that never melts. So then you get this like super sweet honey bite, and then this like blandy, you know, like eating hay with milk. And, you know, it sounds funny, and it was, but at the same time, man, I'm so thankful and grateful, because as time went on, I realized how crappy the friends of mine, my peers, were eating like all this crap in high school, you know, and sucking down we've talked about some of that, like Cheetos with Dr. Pepper for breakfast. It's crap. And, you know, all this mess. And I just never was into all that stuff. And I still, at 43 years old, I'm not, you know, we went out to dinner with friends over the weekend, and they were like, oh, dude, the dessert at this place is so awesome. And it's my wife and I's favorite restaurant here in Eugene. And I was like, I've never had dessert here. Like, they're like, are you nuts? And I'm like, I'm just not really into it. You know, I just, I don't know. To me, growing up, dessert was like seconds on, you know, like whatever thing was for dinner. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm thankful for it now. When you're a kid, you think it's lame, and your friends are all making fun of you because you bring your lunch to school, and your bread's all soaked through because it's a banana and natural peanut butter with bananas and honey, and it's all sloppy and gross. And you're like, oh yeah, bananas again, awesome. But now I'm thankful for all that, you know.
Quite honestly, man, you were talking about the barley glob with the honey, and I'm like, damn, sounds
pretty good.
Let me get that recipe, bro. Let me get that from you, bro. Yeah,
I know. Now you're like, now people more trend towards that. Yeah,
no, it's cool, man. Like, you're not cool if you eat shitty food anymore, you know. So,
well, but it is funny because my son he's taken up a lot of these habits because that's the way we live around here, and his favorite thing is cucumbers, right? So every day he takes a cucumber to school, which is really, really good for you. And all the kids are like, why do you always eat cucumbers? But then his teachers and the parents of those kids are like, man, I wish my kid hates cucumbers. I wish he'd go and grab a cucumber. He always wants a granola bar, you know, that are full of chocolate chips and, you know, peanut butter cups.
Peanut butter cups. Yeah, I'm off the sugar, everything, the wheat right now. I'm riding high on like superfood diet right now. It's good, man. It feels good.
It does feel good.
Food is the number one drug, man. It's the number one drug. But man, it all ties in, man. Like, there's something about people that just like we need, like we seek satisfaction and you know, happiness through what the things that we put into our body. And that's what pisses me off about jerks like Jeff Sessions, man. Like, who the fuck is that creep to say, like, you know, I mean, literally states have, you know, run referendums and the people have voted. It's a fucking quote unquote republic turned democracy or whatever fucking system you want to call it. And
Idiocracy.
Yeah, and so the people say they want to be able to go down to 7-Eleven and buy a spliff, and little Mr. Jeff up there with his little man syndrome. I wonder if he drove like one of those really big ass trucks when he was young. But anyways,
my truck's jacked up.
Anyways, and that guy comes around and he's like, "No, I don't think so, man. I'm the law." That's funny because, man, I like to skim the radio in the car when I'm driving around, and not too long ago I hit upon Rush Limbaugh. What a character that guy is, man. That's a whole other conversation. But he was like, some guy was calling in and they were talking about cars, and Rush Limbaugh was talking about he had some Nova or something back when he was like young in college days, and it was all like pimped out, and he had like the baddest sound system in there with these giant woofers, and I was just scratching my head like, man, I'm really trying to envision Rush Limbaugh fucking rolling around, fucking bumping bass while popping Vicodins, and because and he's another one of those guys too, man. I think he said on the air one time something about how potheads should be killed or shot or something, and that was at the time that the guy was ODing every day on OxyContins, man. It's just the hypocrisy is loco.
Yeah, it is hilarious, but I back to the point of whatever this is.
What is the point? I kind of want to talk about drugs, man. That's an interesting conversation.
I can tell. I mean, we have a drug related conversation going here, and that is the point. Is it doesn't really matter, dude. People get their hands on what they want to get their hands on,
well,
right?
Also too, man. Like, there's something. You can find something negative about every drug, like acetaminophen. What's acetaminophen dulls your sense of empathy. We know now. Ibuprofen makes males contributes potentially to male infertility. I mean, anything, and Sudafed can be turned into crystal meth. You know what I mean? Like, everything's got there's no perfect thing. Even pot, for as many people that love it, it's got its downsides as well.
Well, I mean, and isn't that to deal with everything?
That's what I just said. Everything.
People hold, McDonald's responsible for the obesity epidemic, but McDonald's isn't shoving Big Macs down everybody's throat every day. Those people go out there and they choose to do it. So, same with pizza. Pizza's awesome. I love me a slice of pizza. I haven't had some in a while here, but it's not good for you to eat pizza every day. But also, just to address that real quick, there's these theories out that if you eat the same thing all the time, and there's a lot of articles and news stories about this, that people lose weight eating. For example, what was that pedophile freak from Subway? I can't remember his name.
Jared.
Jared, the Subway.
Don't drop the sub, Jared.
Yeah, don't drop the sub in the shower there, buddy. But he eats subs every day, and the guy lost 100 and something pounds, and it's because. You don't
fucking believe that, do you?
Who knows? I mean,
I don't fucking believe it. It's just marketing, dude. It's more marketing.
It's based on it's based on your metabolism, what you're putting into your system, and there's a lot of science behind kind of the theory that if you eat the same thing all the time, it's the digestive juices that you're producing. And you start producing the same types of digestive juices because your body receives the same diet over and over again, and you start to lose weight because it's definitely your body designs the type of digestive juices that you need to break down whatever you're putting in your system. Like, dude, there's these people now. I was just watch this on Joe Rogan. There's a doctor. He's from Texas. He went to UT, where you went to school. So that'll tell you about his degree. Anyway, he only eats meat. He's been eating only meat for a year. And, he's in his 40s. He's an athlete. He's set several world records for power cleaning and all this stuff. And, dude, you see him in the interview? The dude is ripped, bro. He's 50 now. And he said in his mid 40s, even with all the working out and doing a keto diet and all that, he had belly fat and he was getting thick around the middle. And he's a doctor, and he said he was trying to, figure it all out. And then there was all these groups that he started researching that were carnivore groups, where people that had severe rheumatoid arthritis and joint problems. And they had read that consuming meat would alleviate those problems, and they cut everything, all the carbs, all the vegetables, fruit, everything out of their diet. I know, dude, sounds gnarly, and only consume meat. But it cured this. There's a lot of stories, dude. I went to kind of verify it because I was like, that's some bullshit, dude. That can't be good for you. But no, it's true. There's all these cases of people fixing all these joint issues with an all meat diet, which is but yet again, it kind of harkens back to the thing I was talking about, where you're setting your body up to consume the same thing over and over again. So your body learns how to break down this thing. And the guy made a lot of interesting points about like Inuits and like, you know, in the Roman times, they fed the gladiators like heavy meat diets to beef them up and get them strong to fight. And the Mongols, right, that took over like, what was it, like the biggest, they were like the biggest, owned like the biggest territories in the world and stuff. They were like major meat eaters. So anyway, it's interesting stuff. I'm not recommending to anyone to just eat meat only.
Yeah, there's a disclaimer here.
Yeah, we're not doctors, and we're not saying that. But it's interesting conversation, and it's interesting things to study and look at.
There was a guy I wrote an article about. I forget the details. It's been a few years, but there was a guy that was having some major health problems. Tried everything, diet, everything, nothing would fix it, and did some research or found some angle to try out. And yeah, his thing is he only eats raw meat, like raw, like he goes out and gets like fresh, like fucking sides of beef and just eats it raw. And you might think that's crazy and you might not believe it or whatever, but a friend of mine met him and knows him, and that's how I found out about him. He talked to him in great detail, and that's like the guy's diet is 100% raw meat. How weird is that, man? Humans are freaks. We're freaks, man.
They are. Well, and there's no answer, you know, there's no, hey, this is absolute, and this works for everybody. That's what's so funny about kind of what this doctor guy was saying too. He said that, you know, like for example, people say that cholesterol, if you eat only meat, your cholesterol is going to go way up and you're going to die of a heart attack. But then he said at the same time, the thing that's absolutely necessary for new cellular growth is cholesterol. Cholesterol is the kind of like the juice of new cell life, right? And it's interesting too. He said, you know, people tell you to fast. Your doctor will tell you to fast before they do your blood draw to look at your cholesterol levels and all this stuff. But he's now done these studies and read a bunch of research as well that shows if you fast and you don't give your body fat, your liver, which is mostly fat and strains and cleans your blood, starts releasing cholesterol because it doesn't want to go hypoglycemic. And so, of course, you're fasting for this blood draw, and then your cholesterol is high. And then they said, like, they took these blood draws right after people had eaten like a high-fat meal, and their cholesterol was lower. So it's all over the place. Doctor, like he said, I'm a doctor, and I don't even know. Like, doctors don't even know. You know, there's not been enough research behind all this stuff. So
yeah, I mean, you know, back to drugs too, man. Like you've been to parties and raves in the past. I mean, there's people who can handle their you know, their party, and then there's the assholes and the idiots that just, you know, can't seem to keep it together and just get super fucked up and do stupid things and wreck the vibe for everyone, you know. I mean, so, and that's what pisses me off about the drug war is this one size fits all. Everyone goes to jail. Jeff Sessions, troll.
Well, they vilify everything. It's all bad. It's no good. There's no good in it at all. And like we've talked about before, the portals that open up from, and I know we're not talking like walk through a portal. We're talking like portals of thought and spiritual portals, right? That open up, as you begin to, you know, dive into some of these hallucinogenic kind of mind altering realities. And, you know, those are the things that they're so desperate to control because they can't, they don't want people that aren't going to listen. They don't want people that aren't going to join the military and that are going to want to go out to dispensaries and buy weed and kratom, whatever.
Beats me, bro.
And not buy into their opioid, pharmaceutical, fentanyl, you know, world. And I mean, dude, I'll tell you, the best thing I ever did for myself in my life was get off of Oxycontin and Vicodin and all that shit, dude. All of it. And then they got pissed off at me, dude, that I wouldn't take it anymore. Which, you know, that's another crazy conversation and thing right there. Because I was like, well, maybe, you know, because I was like in my 20s, and I was like, well, maybe they're like, we're paying this dude disability. He's in his 20s, and if we give him X amount of dollars for the next 40 years, that's a lot of money, dude. Maybe we should just kill him with this Oxycontin, save some bucks. I mean, I don't know, dude. Do you know?
I think you just stepped into conspiracy theory territory there, bud. Uh-oh. We need like an alert sound that we could fire off whenever we get into conspiracy theories. I actually think that some conspiracy theories are conspiracies of theories. I don't know. I got lost in that loop the other day. I was like, well, what's real and what's not real? Man, everything's a conspiracy.
Dylan, you please tell me right now what's real and what's not real. I really want to know.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I know that
I
know that if I stay off drugs and eat good food, I feel good. I'm happy and I got energy and I'm able to get stuff done. I know that if people slip up and get stuck on drugs, especially pharmaceuticals, you know, like especially things like antidepressants. Have you ever known somebody like in your family or something, and you spend time with them? I'm speaking about a particular member of my family, and you spend time with them and stuff, and you know, you're just kind of like whatever, and then one day out of the blue they tell you that they take antidepressants every day, and then you're like, oh,
no wonder.
That makes a lot of sense.
No, dude, totally. I have family members like that, and you know, I love them, but it's also, dude, it's like soul crushing and heartbreaking, the stuff that I've seen, you know, these family members go through because of, well, dude, I mean, it's like anything else, right? You can't pop all these pills. Okay, so they tell you don't drink alcohol. Pop these pills all day and then don't drink alcohol, because alcohol has all these negative effects when you're on Prozac and lithium and all this stuff, as you and I both know. And yet, dude, at the end of the day, they've been wired out on this stuff all day, and they want some kind of something to take the edge off, so they drink alcohol. And then, dude, yeah, I mean, I've walked into some pretty wild very contorted situations with family members that have, you know, you see them all day at an event, at a family function, and they're all cool and fine. And then they're like, hey, later on, let's go do this thing. And then you walk in to go because you think you're all going out to do this thing, and they're losing it, dude, like flipping out, freaking out. And I'm not talking in a normal way. I'm talking like a very medicated, very hysterical way.
I'm talking about like that like when you're around a person, you notice that they're just too even keeled, man. They're just too they're just too stabilized on that line too. Between, you know, there's no high moments and there's no low moments. Everything is, you can kind of see it in their eyes, like a distance in their eyes. You know, the eyes are the windows to the soul. And
I have an aunt like that too. That's like just baselined all the time.
And so they're always kind of happy. They're always just kind of right there. And I'm thinking of a particular family member of mine, other people as well, but I'm thinking of a case of a family member. And I remember when she told me, and we were hiking in Costa Rica one time. She told me, she's like, oh yeah. And so I had brought it up with her husband later. And I mean, like as soon as I brought it up, he got angry with me and was like, dude, well, she needs it. The doctor says she needs it, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I was just curious, like what the origins of the need were, and nobody knows. Is the doctor tells them that they need it. But it's so weird how that stuff just can kind of put people into this like soulish trance, you know, man. And yeah, it has to be said that sometimes people get into situations where they don't have control over their mind, and their emotional body's out of control, and depression takes over, and anxiety takes over, and fear takes over, and they just need help, man. They need like instant relief, man. It's like, you know, popping a Valium or something, you know, when you can't go to sleep, and so you know, so antidepressants maybe can help some people sometimes, man. But you can tell, like when people become dependent on them, man, it just changes their personality, man. It just, it's weird. Fucking weird. It's zombie-like, man.
Oh, well, that's the zombie, that's the apocalyptic zombie thing that's going on. I mean, that's the thing that
smartphones and antidepressants.
Dude, tell me about it. And I have a smartphone, and I use it for, man, I use that thing like a tool for all kinds of stuff. I'm out and about. People are contacting me, writing me emails. I'm writing them back. But then, I mean, it's such an addiction, dude. Like, for so many people, like, there's people that wouldn't be able to sit here for an hour with you and me and do this show without picking up their phone and looking at their phone. And that's the part of that I don't understand. And maybe it's because we're old farts,
Jeff.
Yeah, we're of the generation we didn't have it, right? Like, it's only,
I still don't have it.
iPhone, smartphone, whatever freaking phone. I guess those touchscreen phones are only 8 years, like 2010, I think they came out.
Like the iPhone, I think, came out in 2010. I was actually looking at some information about this, like rates of teenage depression, anxiety, like sleeplessness rates and stuff, like started to skyrocket about 3 years after the iPhone was introduced. In other words, about the time that like the market share started to gain enough momentum to where they were starting to become ubiquitous everywhere, but totally fucking up kids' mental health.
Well, overstimulated, man. Like, my son was having trouble getting up for school, for college, and he's like, I keep waking up in the night and I can't go back to sleep. And I'm like, well, what are you doing when you're waking up? He's like, well, I get my iPad and I start watching YouTube. I'm like, don't do that, dude. You're stimulating yourself. You can't, introduce a stimuli when you're trying to go back to sleep. Like, there's these things called real books that are printed on a page and it's not shooting light into your face and in your eyeballs. Get one of those. I know it's like really crazy and old school, and put it on your bedside table and read a book, or I don't know, roll over and go to sleep and think about something. You'll fall back to sleep. Don't pull out your iPad, and start watching a show. Even I wouldn't be able to go back to sleep if I was doing that. So,
and smoke a little bud, dude. Just have a little puff and lay back down. And like pot's good medicine, man. I saw this video, and there's several versions of this, but. Man, like this is one of the reasons why I didn't move back to a pot, legal state, because I don't need it bad enough. And I know that there's idiots out there, and it becomes a scene for idiots. And so I've seen these videos of like, this guy takes the largest dab hit ever, and he like burns through 150 grams of dab oil and like in a 5-minute long toke from this, amazing, incredibly ornate, glass dab rig and 7-chamber dab rig,
Yeah.
Like, man, I mean, everything can be done right and everything can be done wrong. And that shit I'm just like, dude, what's the point of that? I don't know, man.
I for myself personally, I moved to a pot legal state, and it wasn't about pot. It was about the place that I thought would. It was about the beauty and about the kind of place that I would want to live, and just doing something totally different, because my wife and I are into doing something completely off the rails, different than what we were doing, before. So, and I guess the interesting part of that is before I moved here, I smoked way more pot. It's kind of funny. And the second, kind of interesting thing to think about is like over the last weekend, I'm driving around with my friends and they're like, hey, can we go to this dispensary before we go out to dinner and all this stuff? And I'm like, sure. And they walk in there, dude, and they come back with like all this CBD oils and, flour and everything, dude, like little vape pens and all this crap. And then I'm like, they get in the car, dude. I'm driving to this, restaurant, and I'm not even nothing, dude. Like not even a thought of, man, we have weed in the car. You know what I mean? All the paranoia, all the the worry and all that. So that's another thing that becomes cool. Like, for example, you're in Texas, you pick up one of your friends, and they have 3 joints in their bag. And then you get pulled over for some stupid nothing violation, and the cops like search your car, and all of a sudden you're in trouble because someone in your car had some weed, and that's something that's like a non-issue here. And it's, yeah, dude, it's crazy, bro. Like,
well, then you're crossing over into
Jeff Sessions.
You're crossing into the fucking troll. God damn.
That's our through line of the show. Fucking Jeff Sessions.
Fucking troll.
Coming for your weed.
Yeah, but then you cross into a whole nother discussion, man, just about like what the point is of having a state and a government, if they're so predatory and they're so, out to like just get people and bust people and stuff, man. Like, how does that do us any good? I'm going to save that conversation another day. We got a few minutes left, man, but so we should talk more about drugs. What other kind of drugs can we chat about here, Jeff? You ever smoked crack? No, I'm just kidding. Don't answer that.
I have
crack,
not.
but crack is one of those things too, man. I mean, there's a whole the history of that stuff, man. That's crazy shit there. Because in the 80s, independent investigative journalist Gary Webb exposed how the CIA was bringing that stuff into California. That's the whole Freeway Ricky Ross story, and how basically the CIA under George H.W. Bush and all those guys started like the crack epidemic.
Well, it's just like right now, dude. The whole freaking Afghan war, opioid epidemic, dude. That's all the poppy fields. It's all, dude. I mean, come on. That's like insane. Like opioid deaths and heroin addiction and all that stuff was like majorly dropping in the 90s, right? Like a few of these like rock stars were like dying of heroin, and people were like, we got to stop the heroin. It's bad. And people really were like shying away from that stuff. And then, I don't know, dude, we like get into this conflict over there in Afghanistan, and all of a sudden the poppy, the poppy production goes through the roof. Heroin is like all over the place. And I mean, dude, there's various reports of people saying that there's heroin smuggled in these coffins that are supposed to have the remains of soldiers, and all kinds of crazy stuff out there about that.
We do know that poppy production in Afghanistan was the highest last year than it's ever been.
Ever.
So, but back to like the 90s and stuff, like, what coincided with all of this, because you had, this kind of been brewing for a while. Like, you also had the pharmaceutical development of the synthetic opioids. So now we have, we went from Vicodins and oxycodones and that kind of stuff to OxyContins to now fentanyl, and the addicts are not really rehabilitated. They're put on Suboxone and methadone and stuff, which is a just as dangerous, if not more dangerous, substitute for this stuff. And now what's getting really weird is like there's even like even crazier strong synthetics being developed. And then couple that with the fact that a lot of these are being produced in China, China, that great, natural, healthy bastion of healthy organic industrial production over there. They've figured out how to like make all these synthetic opioids and ship them in. So it's really,
and they're like 4 times as potent as heroin.
Well, no, there's one I forgot the name, Cartinil or some crazy shit. I mean, literally, like, I've read stories of police officers like touching the dust in someone's car and fucking ODing. You know what I mean? Like the dust, the powder, the residue of this stuff it's so powerful that if it touches your skin, it absorbs in your skin, and it can kill you just by that. That's how strong some of the stuff is getting. Man, to me, when I think about that stuff, I think about like sci-fi movies from the 80s, like these dystopian. There was a couple in particular, I can't remember their names, but of this
1984.
Well, that's a book. I'm sure they made a movie out of it, but that's a different
Metropolis.
Scene. I mean,
Metropolis was another one from the 80s.
But Brave New World dealt more with psychotropic medicines. But there was a couple sci-fi movies where it was like looking into the future, where there was like these crazy new drugs. I mean, even in the Matrix, they're dealing with some crazy new drug in the beginning of the Matrix, right? Like everybody's hooked on this drug that everybody's got to have, but it's some new high-tech version. So anytime I hear stories about this, I just think about this scary future that we've stepped into, where we've created drugs that are so addictive and so deadly, man. Like just
that's the future now, right?
Future now, man. Yeah, flying cars, buddy. Self-driving cars. Oh my god, that's crazy. Self-driving cars.
So we're living in the what is the Black Mirror, that Netflix show, and it is so funny, dude. Like all the stuff that they're talking about and trying to steer us, warn us about through these movies and television shows. And now here's another topic for later down the road, is the whole AI like robot world that is going to eliminate us, and Skynet and all that stuff. So it's all really. It's crazy, dude. Like we're living it now, and I wonder what it's going to be like when our kids are our age. It's kind of trippy. Our parents didn't have to think about that kind of thing.
In a lot of ways, like our perceptions of the world and our understanding of what's happening in the world are shaped by the media, and so it's interesting watching these things day by day evolve and seeing how the media covers things like AI and self-driving cars and things like, Amazon systems to allow the delivery guys to go into your front door, like Facebook virtual reality headsets and stuff, and how they all pitch this to the public slowly over time. It's pretty interesting. And so, it doesn't feel very organic what's happening these days. It feels like a very inorganic future welling up. The technocracy is being thrust upon us. Man, I want to talk about drugs more sometime, man. Like we talked just kind of about all some of the warped dimensions of drugs today, but we really need to dive into the consciousness raising aspects of drugs, even legal and illegal drugs, and drugs you have to travel to different parts of the world to experience. But to me, that's much more exciting, because I think like
absolutely,
I really truly have seen this in my experience dealing with like younger teenage boys, especially, who have been exposed to ayahuasca and iboga, and seeing how they are able to break out of that grip that drugs have on them, because so many teenagers these days are so far gone into drugs, and how those medicines actually help them to evolve spiritually beyond that stuff. And it reminds me of my own journey of feeling like when I was a kid, like some of the reasons why I fell into those traps was because I was looking for something, man. My soul was seeking something. I was seeking some type of connection that I didn't have. And so a lot of those drugs, ecstasy, acid, all that kind of stuff, man, is so close. It gets you so close, and so close, but it's never enough. So you always want more. It's a slippery slope. So, man, maybe next time we'll dive into that. But you got anything else to say to wrap this one up, Mr. Jeff Anthony?
Oh, well, I just dropped my new website today, Journey to Inner Sage. Did a total redesign on that, so it's looking pretty sharp. Of course, you can find us on our Facebook and YouTube outlets. And definitely drop in and check Dylan out at wakingtimes.com.
Cool. Thanks for that. You just got all the pertinent information. And for anybody out there tuning in, thank you very much for tuning in. We're doing this because we love to talk. We love to talk about life, and we love to talk about transformation in this crazy-ass world. So tune in again next week. Peace.
Later.
You've been listening to Redesigning Reality with Jeff Anthony and Dylan Charles.
Mukabaya, mukabaya.